Okay, let's talk about copying. Why is it seen as such a bad thing? Personally, I'd attribute copying to some of the biggest developments I've had in my drumming. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to give you some great actionable tips, some things that you should learn, and some real life jazz, real drumming examples to take with you. So let's get into it. So to start, I think that I started copying drummers around 3 or 4 years ago when I started playing jazz, and it started with 2 albums that are above my head right now. You can't quite see them, but I'll put them here. We've got Blue Train by John Coltrane and Round About Midnight by Miles Davis. Both drummed by Philly Joe Jones, and there's 3 or 4, I think, really good solos that I went in and I was like, wow, that interests me so much. Let me just copy them word for word, note for note by the drummers and see where I can get to. And what I found there is some really useful skills that you can gain by just directly copying a drummer's solo. One, you get a real feel for their sort of style. You notice, well, for example, Philly Joe Jones loves his sort of fast rolls, and he loves these sort of, and 2 feet, left, right, or right, left, and then 2 kicks all around the kit. And you notice their sort of style, you pick it up, and it becomes sort of ingrained in your way of playing the drums. Additionally, you get a really strong idea for how solos and how drum beats tend to be phrased, because at the point at where you're starting, you might not have a great idea of how things are supposed to be phrased, or things how they tend to be phrased. When you go and copy another drummer's solo, they've done it a million times. They know what structures work, what structures tend to not be their thing, and you learn the sort of backbone of your soloing from that. And for me, a good point is that I picked up a very key skill, and that is being able to sort of transcribe and figure out what's going on in a song just by listening to it. For example, in my case, I played a lot of jazz. And in jazz, there's not a lot of live recordings or live videos of people playing these things, because obviously they're like almost 100 years old now, sort of 80, 70 years old. So it forces you to really tune in your ear to what's going on in the song, work out what notes are being played, work on your art of sort of researching the solo, finding those transcriptions, and then being able to translate it onto your kit from your ear. Okay, so let's talk about problem solving. Problem solving when you're listening and copying other drummers becomes extremely evident once you realize these guys are significantly better than you probably will ever be. Let's hope that you can get better than them, but they are very good drummers. And it teaches you to sort of overcome these challenges by applying things that you already know. For example, you might get to a point and think, wow, he's playing some really fast bits there. For example, Philly Joe used to play these things all around the kit. I'll put a clip on screen. Really fast singles. And at first, I thought it was doubles, and I applied my knowledge of doubles. That was the only way I was able to play it that fast to solve that problem of the fill that he was playing inside of the solo. So yeah, these drummers force you to call on your rudiments, your technique, your prior knowledge of other things you've learned to overcome these problems on the kit to make the solos work, to make the copying work, to make the style and the rhythm sort of flow without it just sounding very sort of wooden while you're playing the kit. Okay, the next point I want to talk about is how copying can help you counterproductively sort of find your own style. For example, you might copy 5 or 6 drummers over the course of a year. Let's say that's a big time frame. You've gone down, you've really knuckled down on say 4, 5, 6 drummers, and you've copied a lot of their solos, a lot of their drum beats. You can then take flavors and bits of all of these drummers that you like, that you find appealing to your drumming, that you think you would work and you find comfortable with, or that you find uncomfortable with, and then you have to overcome that. You can put them all together, and that sort of builds your own style. For example, a lot of drummers nowadays are after that sort of nice, I forget the name, I'll put it on screen, sort of ride pattern with a certain significant style, and then you can add that with other stuff, and then that begins to build your own sort of style. Again, talking about me and my experience, I found that I sort of steal the style of sort of more Elvin Jones when I'm comping, sort of fast movements between the snare and the kick, whereas I steal more sort of aspects of Max Roach and Philly Joe when it comes to soloing, because they're the drummers that I focused on mainly. But in the future, definitely I'll go and pick other drummers, steal some of their stuff, put it into my style, and it really helps to build your own identity on the kit. And the thing that I love about copying, paradoxically, is at the end, it teaches you to stop copying, because you've learned so much stuff that the ideas and the style of the groove just comes naturally, and you find yourself producing stuff that you've already done before in different styles, slightly different ways. Things start merging together because everything's inside your brain already. You've soaked up so much information that you can just spit it out all over the drum kit the next time you play. That's not very brilliant imagery, but yeah, next time you play, it will all be there. Okay, the final bit before we move on to some examples is about working in context. I think one of the best things about copying other drummers is that you're never ever just going to be listening to a lick on its own or a drum solo on its own with no music. It's always in the context of the music. For example, how a solo fits into jazz, how comping fits into jazz, how your major long metal rock solo fits into the context of the heavy rock song. I'm not 100% sure about that stuff, but yeah, can imagine that's how it works. And yeah, it helps you to tune your ear in again to how the things move with the music, how the drummer styles complement the music and don't just overpower it. Obviously it's not all about the drums in these things. And yeah, that's a really good point I think to just think about. Okay, let's talk about my personal favourite songs to copy for comping. And we've got a list. We've got easy, we've got intermediate, and we've got hard. My handwriting is terrible. I'll show it to you, but I doubt you can read that on the camera. So, to start with the easy category, we've got a John Coltrane song, Blue Train. Really, really good for sort of coming out, learning how to comp with the hi-hat, which is little simple bits in there. Quite a nice tempo to sort of flow and get into the groove. Then I've got one called I Didn't Know What Time It Was. I forget the artist, but I'll put it on screen. It's really, really good for learning how to sort of quickly come off the ride, do a little fill, come back onto the ride. So yeah, a really, really good one. Preface, there's a lot of jazz in here. I'm a jazz drummer, right? So intermediate, we've got Take 5, obviously a classic to sort of learn how to comp in 5. Just copy exactly what he's doing and you'll quickly get the feel for how comping in 5 works. Watermelon Man, another classic, but just really, really good, again, for sort of coming off the ride, coming onto the ride. It's more of a straight feel, but you'll get used to it quickly. And then a hard example, really, really, really hard, I even struggle with this one a lot, is Summertime by John Coltrane. If you can get that one, you're truly a pro in jazz. Okay, finally for the soloing, and here are some songs that I treasure, I love so much, and that I would recommend any jazz drummer or just any drummer that's looking to get into this sort of field, or even just to improve their drumming, because it will help you in all your other fields as well, as we've talked about in other videos. Let's get into it. So, starting with an easier one, introducing you to comping, trading, sorry is the word. Aluchar by Miles Davis, again Philly Joe on the drums, I'm a little bit biased, but a nice introduction to some decently complex but still doable trading. So, medium songs, Lazy Bird, John Coltrane, some really good comping on there as well, so that's a good one to copy. Maybe just, if I could give you an all-round song, it would be Lazy Bird by John Coltrane, but there's a really, really nice solo at the end. I'll just get you to listen to it, and it's really, really good. Some more complex trading comes in Billy Boy by Miles Davis. A nice sort of upbeat song, upbeat tempo, you get into it. Some of my favourite times I've had drumming is trying to transcribe this one. I probably spent about 6 months just on one song trying to get it down and the way that he's playing it. And finally, for the hard, one that I learned fairly recently is The Hound by Max Roach and I think his quartet. Some really, really, really nice fast tom work between the toms that just gets the song flowing, and it's a really, really good one to learn. I would really recommend it. Get to it. Get copying. It's great. It's great for developing everything on the kit, from your style to your actual technique and your problem solving and your transcribing. And who's going to know anyway, because a lot of jazz and a lot of drumming does sound the same anyway, and there's only a certain way. It's only a certain amount of times you can play something differently. So yeah, get that out there, copying. I hope you did enjoy this video. It's a little bit random, a little bit more rambly. If you have enjoyed, do check out some other videos, like and sub. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you in the next one.